just to play that back. So you've been supporting fire department. Thank you for your service and all the work you do from that standpoint. You were also working as a ER nurse. So, I mean, you're helping people left and right all day. You have your kids, you start focusing on how do you create some passive income. You're spending a lot of your time working 80, 90 plus hours a week, started to invest, you do some single family, ultimately get into multifamily with a mentor, and then get this 43 unit deal. I just think it's important because so many people, if you're listening to us right now, you're not oblivious to the ability of real estate and multifamily in particular. What do you think changed for you to go from just listening to audiobooks and podcasts and reading about it to actually pulling the trigger on that first deal? I mean, was there something that changed, or what do you think really sparked you to make that leap?
I think it's a number of things, right? I think, I was in my mid 30s when this was occurring. I had a bunch of kids, feeling the grind, right? I know there's a better way out there. I see some of my friends, they're doing really well, and they're business owners or they own real estate. And I'm saying to myself, I have to figure this out, right? What I'm doing is cool, right? I work some overtime, I got some cash, work some more overtime, I got some more cash. I'm maxing out my 457 like a good boy, right? I'm paying all my bills on time. We go on 1 or 2 vacations a year, but there was still something I wanted to be, do, and have more. And it certainly wasn't the impact. I think you just mentioned it. I was a firefighter and an ER nurse, right? I'm having a huge impact on people's lives. I was fulfilled. And that was one of the mental blocks too. Like, why am I not happy, right? I have these 2 great jobs. I'm making an impact, like coming home every day, knowing that I did a pretty good thing or my team did a good thing, but I needed to figure out how to make the money work way better than it was. Right. So after reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I went down a rabbit hole of learning about how money works, right? That financial education piece that I think is missing in so many of us, even people who are super successful, a lot of us just don't have that financial education. So learning how entities worked, learning how, to make your money, the velocity of money, learning how to use debt, like all that stuff kind of came all at once, a very short time. And I think once I had that education and that base, I was able to say, let's go do this. I understand it now. I'm not scared, right? Because a confused mind, a scared mind is going to say no. And it's going to retract into safety and security and clarity, right? But I had that education as a base. And once I had that, I had the confidence to move forward. And then, one thing just not, rolls into the next. One of our fellow podcast hosts talks about the law of the first deal. And once that first deal is knocked down and you have that proof of concept and you have that confidence to actually make more happen, that's exactly what happened in my case.
No, I appreciate you sharing that because you said something really interesting about being, pretty much fulfilled in the work you were doing, your purpose. You were serving, you were helping other people. So it wasn't that you had this void as far as the purpose of your work, but your money just wasn't working hard for you. You had to work overtime. If you weren't, logging in and clocking in, you weren't making that money. And you realize we got to find a way to make this money work just as hard as I'm working. So that's a great way to get into passive investing. And I know you also help other people. So talk to me now about where you're at with your portfolio and what is it that you do in your business today?
Yeah. So once we had once my wife and I had the clarity, we decided to get mentored in multifamily because when we heard about like forced appreciation versus, regular everyday plain vanilla appreciation for 1 to 4 unit, properties, I was intrigued. I was like, wow, you can actually add value to properties and you can do it in a 12 to 18 month period. And then you could refi and use those proceeds. Like my mind was blown. Right. So I started Cityside Capital and we, had no track record, right? I was Tim the fireman, Tim the ER nurse. I still hadn't stepped into that investor identity yet. But, we had one of my mentors was closing on a 43 unit and he gave me the opportunity of a lifetime to kind of join him on that project and to learn from him. And at the end of the project, he had asked me, he goes, Tim, do you think you can, do you want to give raising capital a shot? And I said to him, I said, I have no idea if I can raise $5 or 500,000, so don't count on me, And I just, talked to my, inner circle, my ecosystem. I'd kind of been telling them what I was doing. I heard Brandon Turner on Bigger Pockets tell people, you have to tell people what you're doing or else nobody knows what you're doing. So with that, I was able to raise my first 150,000. And I was like, boy, look at me, 150,000 raised. And then, my brother Greg and I, who's my partner at Cityside Capital, we put a couple bucks in ourselves. And I think I had that proof of concept. Greg had it, and now some of our investors had it, right? So now people start talking. So by the law of the first deal kicked in, all of a sudden we're evaluating 144 units in South Carolina, and we're able to raise like 600,000. And I'm like, oh my God, like this is actually insane, right? Because people want to have somebody who knows what they're doing. They want to be able to trust somebody in real estate because many people are stuck on the other side of the cash flow quadrant. They're just like, I was. They're working, trading time for money. They don't have time to get mentored. They don't have time to get that education, but they know that they should be in real estate in some capacity. And they know if they go to their financial planner that person is going to just say, hey, I have a real estate investment trust I'd like to tuck you into. But that's not, true ownership of real estate, right? That goes into the portfolio income bucket, not your passive income bucket. So, we saw some value there. We said, all right, we can solve some people's problems if we can educate people about what we're doing, how the process works, if we can vet the sponsors, to take that off their plates. If we can have a stable of vetted sponsors that give us deals, and then we can vet those deals for our investors, right? And then we can, put out a vetted opportunity for them so that they know, like, and trust Greg and I. They know, like, and trust Cityside Capital. And now they can feel good about placing their money into real estate and not having to worry every 2 seconds.
Yeah, I think the thing that's really interesting is that you talked about that first deal. You had no idea how much money you would be able to raise. You said you didn't know if you could do $5 or $500,000. And a lot of times that fear of not knowing stops people. There was something where you felt comfortable enough, at least going out there. And maybe it's because you didn't have that pressure, right? It wasn't that you had to raise a certain amount of money, but you were able to go out there, talk to your network. You ended up raising $150,000. And from there, you got better, just like anything else. If you do something, you can learn from it. You can get better. You can improve. You went from 150K to $600,000, and then started to build this thing out to say, okay, we can build a business and a model where we vet operators, we source opportunities, and we bring these to the people in our network. So kudos to you on that. How do you structure that? Because I know you actually took the time to go out and learn more about best practices and getting licensed. So talk to me a little bit more about your approach at Cityside.
Yeah. So, what we found was that, well, early on, we thought we had to do everything ourselves, right? But once we got around people that were doing the thing that we wanted to do, that were successful in the multifamily space, we realized that multifamily and commercial real estate in general is a team sport. Now, me living in, the Northeast and my brother down in Virginia, we weren't going to be moving to Austin, Texas, or Phoenix, Arizona, or Sarasota, Florida. So we weren't going to be boots on the ground. We were still pretty new, right? So no one was going to really trust our underwriting. So we weren't going to be the underwriters, but we could raise capital. But what we, learned was that you can't just raise capital as a business if you're not licensed, right? Yes, if you're a lead operator or you're on the general partnership side of the equation, and you have a material participation in that GP, yes, you can raise the capital. But if you're going to just focus on raising capital, you really need to be licensed, and that's what we did. So we had networked like crazy all through COVID, and which is basically when I started. I started this whole journey March of 2020. So, by networking on, countless Zoom calls, we came across two gentlemen that were starting a private placement focused broker dealer that was going to be using vetted operators on the broker dealer platform to provide these types of opportunities to investors. So the only difference was Greg and I had to study for 3 exams, study and pass for 3 FINRA exams. So we ended up getting our Series 82 license and our Series 63. And now we joined our broker dealer, and we have a stable of 10 operators, mostly multifamily, but we also have a self-storage provider. And when they give us a deal, we have a third-party underwriter, third-party due diligence firm. We have a compliance background. We have legal backup. So when we hit send on an email out to our list, they can know that not only have we vetted the stable of operators just to come onto the platform, but now each individual deal that they give us, once they have a property under contract, we do another deep dive to make sure it's squared away. And we do a committee meeting and we approve it. And now we can send it out to our investors. So now they know that they're getting a vetted opportunity that they can look at and say, does this fit? Is this suitable for my portfolio?
No, I love it, man. Let's break this down a little bit more because I think people have maybe heard of a broker dealer license and some of these things, but maybe they don't understand the mechanics. So what does that process really look like? When you decide, hey, there are two ways to raise money for these deals. I can be a part of the general partnership team, or I can get a broker dealer license. You decide to focus on getting that broker dealer license. One, why did you choose that as opposed to just focusing on opportunities you could be a part of the general partnership team? And then two, maybe you could just tell us more about what the process was. I know you said there are a couple of exams you had to take, but maybe you can dive a little bit more about the process.
Yeah. So for me, I mean, personally, I wanted to be able to sleep at night, knowing that I was doing the right thing, right? I was checking all the right boxes. Because listen, at the end of the day, like I didn't get into real estate to make a quick buck on anybody or to, get rich quick. And, I want to make sure I was really kind of dotting the I's and crossing the T's and doing everything, correctly, because at the end of the day, I wanted to put good opportunities in front of investors and feel good that not only was my money in those deals, but, their hard-earned dollars were going in those deals too. So I wanted to work with some of the better, more established operators in the space. And, you can't just speed date operators and raise capital for them and then not do anything else. That's a recipe for going to jail. So I wanted to be able to work with those kind of operators in this position that I wanted to be in the capital raising space. And this was a way to do it. Right. So when I networked with these two gentlemen that were starting the broker dealer to be focused on syndications, it was almost like it unfolded right before Greg and I. It was a perfect opportunity. It's exactly what we wanted to do. We enjoy the capital raising process. We enjoy investor relations. It's something that we're pretty good at, and it's our way to add value to a team. And with that being said, down the road, maybe we'll be a lead operator one day, but right now that's kind of where it fit because I'm still W-2 employee, and I will be for another, 2-3 years. And so was Greg. So that's kind of the reason why we did it, so that we can really focus on what we're good at. We can kind of go all in on that process and we can do it in a compliant manner. The process, there's 3 exams. The first one is called the Securities Industries Essentials exam, the SIE. And anybody can take that exam. And once you pass it, you have to be sponsored for the next 2 exams. So a broker dealer has to sponsor you to take those exams. And it's a series 82. Some people take a series 22 instead of the 82 to broker dealer preference. And then the series 63, which is really the blue sky laws and the laws that govern securities.
Got it, man. Great information. I like the way you broke it down, right? You wanted to focus. There's so much that goes into trying to put a deal together, finding the deal, underwriting the deal, managing the deal, raising the capital. There's so many steps involved that it does make sense to lock in and focus on a key aspect, especially if you have other priorities. You got a full-time job, you've got your kids. There's a lot to do, right? So if you get focused on one thing, get good at that, you're going to have more success than trying to do every single element of the deal by yourself. So that makes sense for you to lock in on building up your investor database and raising capital. Getting the broker dealer license allowed you to do that, where you're going to be, a little bit more, work with operators who are more established, focused on people and a team where you're vetting these deals. You talked about having, essentially a legal team and an underwriting team and all these other folks that vet these processes, so that when you're looking at a deal, you really got a lot of eyeballs who are weighing in and making a decision before you all give it the green light. And you talked about really there's 3 exams that you have to take to properly get licensed. And then you mentioned that you had to be sponsored by a broker dealer. So is that similar to like someone getting their real estate license, where you, even though you have a license, you kind of have to hang it with a brokerage, or is that similar? Am I thinking about that the right way?
Yeah, you are. So, once you're sponsored by a broker dealer, I mean, the assumption is that, since they're sponsoring you and, once you pass your exam, that you're going to then hang your license kind of with them and work with them, right? They're making an investment in you. So that's what we did. And it costs, Greg and I money individually to kind of join that broker dealer because they have to do a deep dive on you, right? Criminal background check, credit check, they need to make sure that your accounts are all set up correctly and you're licensed in the states that you need to be licensed in. So, it's a little bit of a process to kind of get onboarded. But then once you're onboarded, now you're ready to go, right? And then now we have a compliance backup. So we have our quarterly team meetings and, best practices. And the person who is the lead broker dealer, he's been an institutional investor for a very long time. So, any kind of questions we have regarding compliance or regarding marketing or regarding the legality of something, we know that we are just one phone call away to make sure that, Greg and I and Cityside Capital are protected, that our investors' capital is protected. So it's a little bit more of like a security blanket for us and for our investors. So, and listen, for the lead sponsors, a lot of these guys are very established. If I told you some of the names right now, you probably know all of them. But there's an opportunity because they have a cost of capital, right? They can raise a couple million by themselves. But maybe if they're doing a lot of deals, maybe they exhaust their investor base, and maybe, they don't want to jump up to that pref equity or to that, private equity or family office type money, because generally those entities don't want to come in as limited partners. They want to come in as a JV. They want to have voting rights. They want to have a lockout period. They want to have certain hurdles before they can be refied out. So, operators, while they can get a single check written to them, and that sounds great. Sometimes, I've done deals with pref equity. It's a home run, right? But sometimes operators feel like they can lose the autonomy of their deal. So that's where we come in as like that middle market equity. And we can connect them with not only institutional capital, but we can connect them with our retail investors as well, who are more than willing to come in as limited partners.
Really great insight on just really where the value lies, both for the operator and for your team and your investors. Seems like really good partnership and opportunity there. For someone who's listening to this and are saying, hey, you know what? I kind of want to do what Tim's doing. I'm in that space. I can raise some money. I've got an investor database. Walk us through maybe the decision making that you went through on getting the broker dealer license. I mean, was there a financial, return you were looking for? Was there a time commitment? Maybe just give us a little bit of context to why you decided this was the right move when you evaluated the information you received.
Yeah. So I think, we wanted to give our investors who in the beginning, right? Even though I've only been doing this about 2 years, they still continue to be our friends and family and college roommates and cousins and coworkers. But I mean, obviously now we've expanded to others. But we wanted to give them a really good product, right? And who is better to offer that product than someone who's been doing it for a decade or more, right? Who has that track record, who has the exits to support, the process. Because at the end of the day, people still think that real estate investing is really, really risky. People have no problem dropping thousands of dollars into Bitcoin or crypto, and that's fine. Like that's stuff that I don't understand. But when you go out on the risk curve like that, it's really risky, right? And to me, investing in real assets, and once you understand the process of how real assets work and they throw off cash flow and, the debt, and we don't have to go into all the weeds there, but I mean, it's really not as risky as I think a lot of people tend to think that it is. And Greg and I always talk about how real estate investing has a marketing problem, right? People have been thinking for a while that they watch HGTV or they watch A&E and the, people are flipping and making all this money and driving a Maserati the next week. Like, that's just not how it is, right? It's a slow and steady approach. It's knowing markets. It's being very specific about the criteria that you want to purchase and how you want to invest, and taking that and formulating it into a product that we can put in front of people means a lot to us. So that's why we wanted to do it. We wanted to have constant deal flow. We wanted to be able to say yes or no to deals for whatever reason. And we wanted to do it on a consistent basis. And while we had the consistent deal flow, we wanted to be able to take that other time to start our podcast, to start our YouTube channel, to talk to people, to go to meetups, to go to conferences, to have that education piece, because I think that's a big piece that's missing in the real estate investing space.
What's one thing you do now that you didn't do when you first started raising capital that's made the process easier and you've seen success in being able to connect with people and share these opportunities?
I think it's creating that thought leadership platform that we talk about sometimes in our circles, right, John? I mean, having the blog posts out there of like those frequently asked questions, because as a capital raiser or somebody who's talking to people about financial education or real estate investing, you hear a lot of the same questions over and over again from people. So when you're able to capture some of that frequently asked question material and put it into a blog post, to make a video about it, to go live on Facebook, to, go to conferences and have, some materials to hand out. I mean, that is the powerful piece, because, people now look to you as a thought leader in the space. We just started a podcast a couple months ago, and we're getting a ton of great feedback because people want to hear it from people who are doing it. Before 2012, as you know, with the Jobs Act in 2012, you had to know somebody who was doing this, the real estate syndication. You had to have a material, not a material relationship. What is it called? A substantive relationship with somebody who was doing these types of deals, right? So if you weren't at the table at the yacht club or the country club or whatever, you didn't even know this existed. And that's one of the hurdles that we face talking to investors, even, high net worth people, is that they never heard of syndication. So it's been a wild ride, but it's really kind of curating that content and making sure it's available for everybody to see.
No, listen, I think that's just great information there. If you really want to grow, you want to connect with people, you've got to curate the content, right? Either create it yourself, curate it, but get in front of folks, answer their questions, educate them. A lot of this really just comes down to knowledge. Like you said, there's a marketing problem when it comes to real estate investing. A lot of folks do not understand it. They believe real estate investing is either flipping a house or buying a rental at most, but they don't understand that you can actually invest in real estate without being a landlord. And it's a great opportunity for a lot of people. For those folks who want to learn a little bit more about you or what you're working on with Cityside Capital, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
Yeah, you guys can come check out our podcast. It's called the Passive Income Brothers Podcast on all the major platforms. Or just stop by our website, citysidecap.com, and you can find our blog posts. You can sign up for our investor club. You can get in touch with us, and that's the best place to start.
I love it. All right, Tim, we're going to go to our round of insights. Give me a failure or an apparent failure that set you up for later success.
I think I wouldn't really call it a failure, but I would say a fallback to safety by becoming the firefighter, chasing that childhood dream, and knowing that there's a W-2 paycheck every 2 weeks. While it's been a great ride, I think that it also fueled my desire to be, do, and have more from a very early time in my career. So I would just say that, playing it safe was maybe a mistake, and really kind of going after what I really wanted to do has been awesome.
Give me a digital or mobile resource you recommend for your business.
Oh boy. I use Social Pilot as my social media, content calendar and posting. And it's just a phenomenal tool that I use very frequently.
All right, give me the book you've recommended or gifted the most in the last year.
Well, it's going to be the book that I was a co-author of called Bringing Value, Solving Problems, and Leaving a Legacy. And if you want a free copy of that, I'll be happy to send it to anybody. Just shoot me an email at tim@citysidecap.com. But in addition to that, it's really been Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and the Cash Flow Quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki.
All right, give me a daily habit that helps you stay focused on your goals.
Getting up early. I was never an early riser. And since I've become an entrepreneur, I'm up at 5:30 every morning, where I used to be the person hitting snooze 48 times.
All right, give me your number one insight for multifamily investing.
All of the data. You just have to follow the data or follow the people that are following the data, because you there's so much to learn. There's absolutely so much to learn, and investing in real estate is on a block by block, submarket by submarket type of endeavor. And if you can't do it yourself, you have to find somebody like John who knows what they're doing and have been successful at it. And just follow that data.
I love it. Great stuff there. All right, let's lighten the mood a little bit. You're a firefighter. I know one thing about firefighters is you guys love to eat. So give me your favorite place to grab a bite.
It's going to be the firehouse. I gotta tell you, I listen to this question over and over again, and people throw out these restaurants, and I'm always like, man, maybe if I'm in that neighborhood, I'll definitely grab that. But I'm telling you right now, the firehouses are probably across the country, but in New York City, I've never eaten better in my entire life. I mean, just phenomenal. Sometimes it's funny. I'll joke with my wife. She'll be home with the 3 kids while I'm in the firehouse eating a surf and turf type of meal. And she's like, yeah, we had chicken nuggets and macaroni and cheese, and I feel guilty kind of telling her what I'm eating, but the firehouse for sure.
I love it, man. Great stuff there. And I just left a good friend of mine who's a firefighter, and he cooks multiple times a week. And I mean, the level of detail, you would think this man was an Iron Chef, the way he talks about the meal and preparation and whatnot. So completely makes sense to me. But listen, Tim, great information, man. Really enjoyed having you on the show and sharing a little bit about your journey, going from being a firefighter and ER nurse, still working as a firefighter, but now working more as a real estate investor through Cityside Capital, and sharing why you decided to focus on raising capital and doing it through the broker-dealer approach. Going out there, the advantages that you got from taking that approach, and really understanding how we could go out there and raise more money, be a better steward of these opportunities. And it's just really good information for us to understand what the options are that are out there. Again, for anybody who wants to learn more, you can check out more at Cityside Capital. That's the company and also the website. And I just want to make sure we stay in touch with you. Tim, just want to thank you again for coming on the show today. Hope you have a good one. We look forward to staying in touch.
Thank you, John.